Lyle, question of the day. I've been really missing doing question of the day with you, I have to say.
I have been missing doing question of the day. It's my favourite part of the day.
You ready for this?
I am ready for this.
Do the disciples have families?
This is a really good question. Let's begin by why don't we actually start by looking at the family of Jesus? How about that?
Okay. It's an interesting place to start.
Yeah, because the Bible does talk about the disciples having families, and some of those families are related to, obviously, the family of Jesus. So Matthew chapter 13, and we will go to verse 55, where the Bible says this, and this is, of course, is the people from Nazareth speaking, and they say, "Is not this the carpenter's son?" They're speaking about Jesus. "Is not his mother called Mary, and his brothers James and Joseph and Simon and Judas?" Now, this is not Judas Iscariot, obviously. This is Judas of Joseph. And so there are two names there that should jump out straight away, because Judas in the Bible is called Jude, and the other name there is James. Now, there are three Jameses in the Bible. We have James, the son of Alphaeus, James, the son of Zebedee, and James, the brother of Jesus. And so the book of James that we have in the Bible is written by James, the brother of Jesus, and the book of Jude that we have in the Bible is written by Jude, the brother of Jesus. James, who was the brother of Jesus, was also the leader of the church at the time of the Jerusalem Council. And so we find that Jesus had family, brothers and so forth, and sisters, the Bible says. So Jesus had both brothers and sisters, and the Bible says that teaches us that they did some important things in ancient times. Now, if we go to Matthew chapter 8, we'll flick over here very quickly, and verse 14. Matthew 8, and let's go down to verse 14. The Bible says, "And when Jesus had come into Peter's house, he saw his wife's mother," and that's, in other words, Peter's mother-in-law, laid sick with a fever.
So he was married?
Yes, very, very clearly married. In fact, all of the disciples were married.
Did they have kids?
We would assume so, because most people that married, that's what happens, particularly back in the day when, birth control was a little bit more haphazard than what it is today. But the Bible says they were all married. If we go to 1 Corinthians chapter 9, where Paul is speaking. Now, Paul, of course, was a single man, but he wasn't part of the 12. So of the 12 disciples, the Bible says they were married. Paul says this, "Don't we have the right to bring a Christian wife with us, as the other apostles and the Lord's brothers do?" So notice here that he talks about the other apostles and the Lord's brothers. They're all married. They all bring their wives with them when they go on missionary journeys. Like, don't we have the right to do the same? Now, of course, he was a single person, and so it's a bit of a rhetorical question. And he continues on. He mentions Peter here specifically, and he says, "Or is it only Barnabas and I who have to work to support ourselves?" And so the Bible says that all of the apostles were married. They all had wives, and their wives supported them in their ministry, in their missionary endeavors. And so you get these little clues coming through all over the place. Some people think that, the apostles and, we're all just, completely celibate, and they never had, wives or families or so forth. This is not what the Bible teaches. And the whole concept of celibacy is something the Bible is actually quite strongly speaks against. The example we have, example of happily married people with families. That's what we find in the Bible.
Thank you so much, Lyle. If you have a question, give us a call, 1-800-FAITH-FM.